This is the Dream It Alive show. I'm your host, Ash Kumra, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. DreamItAlive.com is a global community guiding you to create your dream life with visualization tools, dream boards, and helpful personal development content. So why not take that next step and become the best version of you and check out DreamItAlive.com. And along those lines of becoming the best version of yourself, one of the things that is near and dear to my heart and many dreamers' hearts is how to achieve that purpose and not only find that purpose, but make a living out of that purpose. I call it a purpose-driven business, being an entrepreneur. Some people might call it that dream job, that purpose-driven job, something that is not only creating abundance for yourself financially, but also creating abundance for the world in a positive, impactful way. One of the things I've learned as a student of life is that the most successful people, whether it's from the corporate world or entrepreneurship world or social impact world, they do things that are creating an impact, that is living out their purpose and calling. And that is why we have the 100 MBA co-founder, Omar, on this. And what I like about Omar's community and what I like about his show is that he just gets it. I mean, this guy is really giving back to the world on how to find that true calling, how to be successful, how to be rich too, of course, which is important for you to keep growing and living out your purpose. And his story of how he created this amazing venture to the knowledge that he shares. I'm a fanboy. I found him. I listened to his show and I humbly asked him to be on this show. So just to give you an example that, I'm speaking to someone which I am actually learning from as a student of life. So Omar, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ash?
I'm doing great, man. Well, first question I always ask all of our guests is, tell us a little bit about your life journey. Like, how did you get to where you are launching $100 MBA, I'm sorry.
Sure. Great question. I actually started in education. I was an educator for over 13 years. I taught at the high school and university level. The last 6 years or so was at the university. I was an administrator as well as like a teacher trainer. So while I was there, a lot of the time I was working, most of those times, like about a decade of it, I was doing what they call side hustling, where I build businesses online or offline on the side in my spare time. As an educator, you have a lot of free time in the summer, so I used to spend a lot of time building businesses then. And it was just a journey of figuring out how I wanted to contribute to the world, how I wanted to add value to the world. I wasn't fulfilled as an educator in an institution. If anybody works in education, they know it's very restrictive in the way that you can add value. There's a lot of rules, regulations, they tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it. So I was trying to find some freedom through entrepreneurship, and that's what I was doing. And then eventually I made the leap to becoming a full-time entrepreneur. And me and my co-founder, Nicole, started the $100 MBA, which is a program that is exactly what it sounds like, a $100 MBA education, where it helps people learn how to build a business that's viable and be able to do exactly what you speak about, be able to form a living, form a way to add value to other people's lives in a way that you feel significant, the way that you add value to other people's lives while making a profit, while being able to live off that venture. So that's basically what we do with the $100 MBA is offer video-based courses. People can ask questions. There's a community forum. There's workbooks. So we wanted to make sure that it's available to everybody that can afford $100. At the same time, anybody that's willing to do the work and learn what they need to learn.
That's awesome. And, I love the fact that you reaffirm that, yes, you do need to do something purposeful and impactful to, have that dream calling or dream business or dream job. My follow-up question on that is, and we're going to dive a little deeper as this interview progresses, what are some of the just basic traits that someone should think about when working on that business that really lives out their calling? And let me give you a little context. I often meet a lot of people who, let's say, work in the corporate world, and they're just sick of the grind. and they want to become an entrepreneur. And I always ask them, is this a business because you want to live out a purpose? Or are you trying to, like you said, make a side hustle, make some extra money? And often the people that say, well, it's really to do a purpose. Like, I want to get in a business that is, let's say, helping the women clothing line because I'm a mom and I saw a deficiency, and when I was pregnant I just remember that it sucked being a mom pregnant in terms of buying clothes, so I want to create a new pregnant women's line or bump wear, things like that. Let's say that person came up to you, like, what are some basic tips you would give that person?
That's a good question, because it's a tough one, because the first thing I would ask that person is, a lot, like you said, if you're looking to change your job or become an entrepreneur, sometimes I'm tired of my job, I'm sick of it, I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, doesn't always equate to I want to be an entrepreneur. You may just need a different job. You may just need a different career. Maybe you just need to work in that industry that you're interested in and be an apprentice of a person that's really good at that. Because being an entrepreneur is a different type of life. You're not getting a paycheck day in and day out. It's pretty high risk, but obviously with risks there's rewards. So you have to understand what you're getting into. It's not only you're fulfilling a passion, which is great, and I really endorse that. But being able to become a great entrepreneur doesn't automatically happen just because you're tired of your job. Mm-hmm. And I say that with a grain of a little bit of I don't want to sound like I'm judging the person anyway, but it's just a reality check, because I rather throw a bucket of cold water on somebody's face now before they go into entrepreneurship. They say, oh, I'm in debt, I don't know what to do, I need to find a job, the economy's bust. So there's a type of orientation you need to go through where you realize, yes, I understand, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I can, and I understand what that means exactly. I know that means that I'm not going to have a steady paycheck, that things might be up and down, that I'm going to be dealing with self-doubts and dealing with haters and dealing with all the different types of challenges that entrepreneurs have to go through, those rites of passages. If you're at that point, that's wonderful that you have that kind of foresight and you can go ahead and move forward. I would really say that you need to focus on your audience and not the idea. A lot of us, we fall in love with our ideas. I have a great idea for this product. I think this will sell. I think will sell is not a viable business, because you're not the buyer. You need to find out who you're serving first before you even think about what you're going to serve them with. So knowing your audience very well, knowing who you're going to be serving, who will be your customers, they are the ones who are going to predict what kind of offers you're going to give. There's so many times the $100 MBA, when I launched it, looks very different than it is right now, because I had to take a lot of feedback from my audience, from the customers, from the members, and readjust myself and recreate myself, because at the end of the day, we don't exist without an audience, without the people that we're serving. So that's kind of my first tip, is really focus on who you're serving.
Okay, well, I want to just segue into when you talked about who are those rock star entrepreneurs and the traits that they have. Based on the entrepreneurs that you've worked with, what are some of the traits that they have shown that you're just like, okay, there's a likely chance that they are going to be successful entrepreneurs?
I think one of the traits is you just simply have to want it bad. Like really, really, you want it more than anything else. The reason why I went into becoming a full-time entrepreneur is because I felt insignificant in my current career, and I wanted to feel more significant. I felt like I was adding more value to the world, and that was like a really painful thing in my life. I really felt that I needed to do that, and I know that it wouldn't be alleviated until I, went full force and put all my chips on the table and became, a full-time entrepreneur. And I realize that now, that I do feel like significance is a value that I really I value as a person. So you really need to want it really bad. I've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs that are successful. I know a good example is like Gary Vaynerchuk. That guy wants it so bad. He hustles every day, and you have to want it so bad in order for you to make it, because there are going to be challenges along the way. And there's going to be some high moments too. You're going to have some victories as well, and you're going to have to know how to take those as well. One of the best advices I've received were, don't let anything last more than a day, meaning that even a victory, enjoy it, celebrate it, but move on the next day. If you had a failure, don't worry about it. You can feel bad for a day, but you got to move on the next day. So you just got to keep on pushing through. And also, great entrepreneurs are flexible. They're not stubborn. They understand that they're only one piece of the puzzle. That they may be somebody that's kind of orchestrating the situation, or the coach of the team, of their employees. But at the end of the day, they need other people around them to make it happen. They also understand that they're not always right. If they can get proven, they're all about what will work for the business. If somebody comes up with a great suggestion or a great way of doing something differently, then they're willing to be flexible and do something differently for the sake of the business and the success of the business.
Okay. No, that was a great answer on that part. I want to jump to the dream job, because you did mention something that I definitely agree with you earlier on, that sometimes maybe you're just meant to go to that dream job instead of becoming an entrepreneur. How do you know that the job you are taking is that dream job? I mean, I meet people who, let's say common things. So I live in the Los Angeles area, right? And a lot of people jump into the movie industry. They want to become producers, or they want to become public relations assistants or managers, or they want to become, directors. And it's more of the glitz and glamour of the industry kind of fades away the actual role that they have, or the harmful benefits that sometimes can happen, because sometimes you enter a job that you might not pay that well, but you're like, well, it's Hollywood and I get to work with movie stars and it helps my longer term dream. Walk me through this. Like, how do you know that this is the right job for you, that whatever field it may be for a person? And again, I know it's just based on your general opinion and based on what you've seen and what you've done. So I know that.
Well, the best answer I can give you is an answer that I learned from Robert Kiyosaki, who's the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he talks about this a bit. And he talks about that the barometer to know if this is the job that is your dream job. Would you do it for free? Would you go to work every day for free? Would you, if you weren't receiving any kind of compensation, you would have to get compensation with a part-time job somewhere else or something like that? Would you be able to go in day in and day out and say, you know what, I know I'm not getting paid, but I'm really enjoying this. I'm learning so much. I'm growing. This is really a great opportunity. If that's the case, then I think that's a dream job, because I don't know what I would do else. Like, I know I don't have a job, but I don't know what I would do else if I were not doing this. I think this is what I do every day. So, and I do work for free a lot of times, because I work on things that don't have a direct impact on my bottom line sometimes, but I do realize that it's part of my growth. Okay.
Well, along those lines of, being in that dream job or being in that dream business comes, you said something really interesting, doing tasks or celebrating tasks that, shouldn't last more than a day. Well, along those lines, a big deal for me at least is goal setting, putting things down. Bigger picture is visualization and utilizing dream boards. And then on the day-to-day is having goal setting lists. My question for you is, how important is visualizing the future, using, visual aids like dream boards, or using practical writing goal setting lists are for making your journey happen, whether it's your dream job or dream business?
I think they're important. I think you do need to write down, set out what you have to do, even if it's just like the tasks for the day or for the next month. You need to have some sort of direction. You need to know where you're going. You need to have some sort of plan. I think that's really important. I think also great entrepreneurs have the ability to suspend disbelief for a certain amount of time, because essentially an entrepreneur is building something out of nothing. Like, it's, the $100 bill didn't exist and now it does, so at some point I had to suspend disbelief long enough for me to create it, long enough for me to just ignore the doubts, ignore what people are saying until it's actually, built, because otherwise you're not going to make it. You're going to have all these doubts, and you're never going to, a lot of people don't even make one step forward because disbelief creeps in. So yeah, you definitely have to have, a plan in place, even if it's like a to-do list that, this is what I'm doing today, this is what I'm doing tomorrow, and this is how I'm going to carry out step by step what I'm doing, as well as having that internal belief of saying, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. And it's like a muscle that you exercise. I think the more you exercise it, the better, And I think that the more that you practice this feeling of suspending disbelief, the better you're going to get at it, and then you start to get really certain. Like, yeah, this is going to happen. Like, I've done it before, and I can do it again.
Okay, no, that's a very good point. One more question on the advice, and then we're going to dive into a little more about where you see your business heading, and then we will get into some audience questions if we still have time. One of the things I've heard from many people, and one thing I've personally experienced, is this whole notion of learning from that big failure or that moment. And at the moment you might be perturbed about it. You might not see, oh my gosh, does this mean this isn't what I should be doing? But often we're wrong. Often that failure is a saving grace, and it can help turn into something else, or it might help give you perspective so that you don't make that same mistake, and the business or dream job might actually thrive. My question to you is there a personal failure experience that kind of helped you get to where you are right now? I'm not saying you're glad you went through failure, but at least you acknowledge that, hey, that experience kind of helped me.
You have to take your pick. There's like so many. I mean, I think part of being successful is failing. You have to fail. I mean, and you have to try to realize that it's a rite of passage. You have to fail, and you can plan to your heart's content, but at some point you're going to have to learn through a failure, because there's some things you just don't know is going to happen. You have to just really just understand that you have to go through a process. So let me see, I'll give you like a most recent failure. So before we launched the $100 MBA podcast, we had another podcast. It was an interview podcast, and it wasn't as successful. It was not nearly as successful. The $100 MBA gets over 13,000 listeners every day, while this podcast was getting like 200. So it was really a failure in our eyes, because we really believed in the podcasting format, but it was just not taking off. It was just, we had some really good guests, and, we were having fun, and I made a lot of great connections and things like that, but, it was just not taking off. And, my partner and I, and she's my fiancée as well, Nicole, we went on a road trip. We were on a road trip across the country, and we had a lot of time to think about, why is this not successful? What's going on? Why are we failing at this? And we come to realize that, we believed in the podcasting format, but we're not really utilizing our strengths. We're really, I'm not the best interviewer in the world. There's a lot of great, interview shows like this, as well as others on other podcasting formats and things like that. And, my strength is teaching. I can teach very well. I know how to put a, lesson together and form a curriculum and ensure learning, and know how to, convey information, precise information in a short amount of time. And that's my strength, and I wasn't utilizing it. And we come to realize that we need to rethink the way we're doing business and rethinking the way we did this podcast. And that's kind of, that failure kind of turned into the success of the $100 MBA, because we sat down, wrote down our strengths as individuals, and we said, okay, how can we create a show that's of that nature? And we came up with the concept of the $100 MBA show, which is 10-minute business lessons every day. We really thought there was a need in the market for this, because most business podcasts on iTunes are either interview-based or they're hour-based discussions, and a lot of people don't have that kind of time. So that failure was really painful at one point, but we learned from it. We didn't say, you know what, we suck at this, forget it, we're not going to do this again. We just said, okay, what's going on here? Why are we not doing well? How can we do better? And let's use what we're learning now to move forward. We were so anxious to move forward, but we wanted to make sure that we moved forward in the right direction.
Okay, well, that's a great example of how you turned something that wasn't a victory into helping you shape what your thing is. And I agree with you. I mean, you have a great niche, and you are definitely a great teacher. So it definitely makes sense what you just said. One quick question on your business, and then we'll dive into some audience questions. Where do you see your brand heading, and what's on your vision? What do you visualize when you think about the $100 MBA, or what do you put down on your own goal-setting dream board, or whatever you use?
Well, there's a lot of things that we think of. The $100 MBA, obviously, we wanted to grow as a community and as a platform. But there's a lot of things that we're working on, including live events. We're going to be doing some live events. We're going to be able to offer, what we teach in a live format, which we feel is the superior format. There's nothing like real life one-on-one contact. We're also working on a solution that's a holistic solution to teaching online, which is going to be a webinar platform. We beta launched a webinar software called Webinar Ninja, but in a couple of months we're launching a pretty large launch on Webinar Ninja, which will provide a platform for people to not only sell and do what people normally do on webinars, but also to have a teaching and coaching platform, so people can offer coaching, teaching, and mentorship using our platform. So we're really looking forward to that, and that's kind of a large project for us, but we think it's going to make a great impact because it's going to be a complete solution. Not only will it be the software, but it's more going to be about the education of how to teach, how to present, how to sell, how to do this comfortably.
That's amazing. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing that. So we have a question from Janine, and Janine wanted to know, hey, Omar, I'm really curious. I'm a business school student, and right now I've been asked to create an entrepreneurship project for my class, and fortunately I have another few months before the semester ends. My question to you is, what is your take on business plans? How much should my business plan be used when working on an entrepreneurial idea that I would eventually have to present and have a prototype for?
Well, a business plan, it can be ever evolving, but you need to have some core principles in a business plan. My quick and short answer to that is if you just head over to 100mba.net/guides, we have a whole bunch of guides there that you can download for free. One of them is our one-page business plan template, and this template just goes over the things you need to focus on any business plan. And we purposely made it one page because we wanted you to focus on the essentials and understand that a business plan doesn't have to be this overwhelming thing. It doesn't have to be like a 40-page document. So that's my short and sweet answer. But you really need to focus on a few things. One is the value you're providing, who you're providing it to, all that. Also, just focusing also on how long will this take to actually bring it to the market, how much is it going to cost you, how much you're going to actually make off a sale, and are you going to make a revenue, what's your break-even point. So all this is detailed in that guide that I mentioned to you. So I encourage you to take a look at it and download it for free.
Okay, very cool. I was just typing up a follow-up response to this audience member. That's why you heard some typing. Ray wanted to know, what are some industries in 2015 that excite you in terms of entrepreneurship? For instance, the last few years, there was this thing called the lean startup movement. There's people like Tim Ferriss that are creating these 4-hour work week lifestyles. You yourself have a amazing way of growth hacking. I like this question, growth hacking, the way online education is. What are some industries or types of areas around entrepreneurship that excite you that you feel might blow up in 2015?
That's a really good question. I'm really excited about SaaS businesses, which are software as a service. I think, and software as a service is not necessarily only software, but the point is that you're selling or giving access to a solution on an ongoing basis. We use SaaS all the time, but most of the time it's free, like Facebook or Twitter or MailChimp or something like that. But more and more, this is becoming a lot more popular. And if you've noticed, a lot of major companies have moved to the SaaS model, like Adobe. Adobe, you can't buy a piece of software at the store and install it with a CD anymore. You have the Adobe Cloud, which is you pay a monthly fee to access their software. And a lot of people are doing this with information as well, like with courses. Lynda.com is an example where you pay a monthly fee to do this, to have access to that solution. So SaaSes are starting to grow really rapidly now because, one, it lowers the barrier of entry. People can use something like Adobe Photoshop for $20 because that's the monthly fee, or something, $20, instead of paying, it was up to like $800 at one point, I think, CS6. So, people can't drop $800. It's also, if you think about a business, and if I need to get 20 of my employees on a software like Photoshop, it's a huge expense for me to drop 800 times 20, to put down, $16,000. That's a lot of money. So with the SaaS model, it helps businesses have access to solutions at a lower cost. Yes, over time they may be paying more because it's monthly, but they're willing to do that to have cash flow and be able to spend their dollars on advertising, on growing. So SaaS models are really starting to grow, and the reason why we're taking our software and we're going to put it into a SaaS model is because of this, because we do want people to have access to our software even if they can't afford a big price ticket. They can pay a fee, but a larger fee, and have it for a longer period of time, but it's not compulsory. So I would definitely take a look at it. You'll know that an industry is growing when you go and you Google information about it, and there's not a lot of information about it right now. There's some articles or some tutorials, but if you go to YouTube, there's like maybe 10 or 15 videos on SaaS models, and so it's something that's kind of emerging, and I really think that those who are looking to build a business, having that kind of model might be advantageous.
Okay. Well, this last question is from Mary, and Mary is asking you, hey, Omar, one of the great things I like about this show that Ash is doing with Dream It Alive is that he often asks people what are their rituals and habits that you do to stay grounded, stay successful, not just on the tactical stuff. So since Ash hasn't asked this question, what habits and rituals do you do every day to keep you focused on the end prize?
That's a good one. I think gratitude is very important. I think you need to realize where you came from. If you start to get a whiff of success, is just stay grounded. Realize that as quickly as you achieved it, you could lose it. Also, the fact that the one thing I really focus on is we're nothing without my audience. I'm nothing without anybody who's listening to my podcast or a member of my membership or whatever, because these people are the reason why we exist, the reason why we even have a business in the first place. So, I like to reply to every email personally. I like to make sure people feel like they're appreciated, that their questions are answered, because, that's why I got into this in the first place, is to answer those questions. And you have to enjoy that. You have to enjoy that quote unquote grind, because otherwise you're in the wrong business. And I've been in businesses, I've built businesses that I didn't feel the same way about. I felt, it's a good business model. I feel the need in the market. It's a good opportunity. It's making money, but I'm not really, loving the audience. That's a real bad place to be in, is when you kind of, turn the other way when you see somebody who's your customer. You need to kind of be a member of that community and really embrace it. So that really helps me when I remember, these people are great. A lot of people, they dwell on the numbers. They say, oh, I only have like 300 subscribers on my email list, but those are 300 people that are listening to you, reading your emails. Don't neglect them. Pay attention to them and appreciate them, because they'll spread the word, and they'll be your evangelists and push your message through.
Okay, well that's some great advice. I definitely agree with you about the whole gratitude. I feel gratitude creates the right attitude, so very nice there. Well, Omar, thank you so much for being on the show, and more importantly, thank you for, I feel, creating a purpose-driven business. You're really helping a lot of people, and I love the fact that, you have something that's very affordable, that's instant, that you can get inspired from and learn from every day with your show and the great things you have in your community. So I really hope and looking forward to see the continued abundance that your business will do in 2015 and beyond.
Well, thanks, Ash. I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to speak on your show.
Thanks. Bye.